My friends, the easiest person to fool is not the one who knows nothing. It is the one who believes he already understands everyone around him. People rarely reveal themselves in one dramatic moment. They reveal themselves in the pause before they answer, in the way their behavior changes when nobody important is watching, in what they do when they gain advantage, and in the small contradictions most people excuse because they want to believe the best. If you only listen to words, you will miss half the truth. If you only trust appearances, you will be late. Observation is not suspicion, it is discipline. And once you learn what to watch, people begin telling you who they are long before they realize they have said anything. Watch for the gap between words and behavior. When you want to understand someone, do not begin by asking whether their words sound convincing. Begin by asking whether their behavior carries the same message. Words are easy to shape because a person can choose them carefully, rehearse them, soften them, and use them to create whatever impression they want. Behavior is harder to control for long periods because it is connected to habits, priorities, and character. A person may tell you that they respect your time, but repeatedly arrive late without concern. They may say they support your growth, yet become distant whenever you improve. They may speak about honesty, then change their story when honesty becomes uncomfortable. None of these moments by themselves prove everything about a person, but repeated gaps between words and behavior deserve your attention. Do not rush to accuse. Observation loses its value when emotion enters too early. Your task is not to collect evidence so you can attack someone. Your task is to see clearly enough that you stop building important decisions on promises that are not supported by conduct. Think of a martial artist studying an opponent. He does not only watch the hands, he watches the hips, the feet, the shoulders, the breathing, and the distance. Why? Because the body often reveals the attack before the fist arrives. Human behavior works in a similar way. A person's repeated choices often announce their real priorities before their words admit them. You must also learn the difference between a mistake and a pattern. Everyone becomes inconsistent sometimes. A tired person may forget something important. A stressed person may speak badly once. A good friend may disappoint you. If you treat one imperfect moment as a complete judgment, you become unfair and foolish. Character becomes visible through repetition. Watch what happens across time. Does the person repeatedly promise what they do not deliver? Do they apologize beautifully but change nothing? Do they speak differently depending on who is present? Do they become warm when they need something and unavailable when they do not? These patterns are more valuable than any explanation because they show you how the person actually moves through life. There is another reason this matters. People often learn the language that earns trust before they develop the character that deserves it. They know which words sound loyal, humble, disciplined, or caring, and sometimes they use those words sincerely. But sincerity must still be tested by time. Do not become cynical, but do not let beautiful language cancel repeated evidence. The more important the decision, the more patiently you should watch. Trust should grow in proportion to consistency. When conduct and speech continue moving together, confidence becomes reasonable. When they separate again and again, stop explaining the pattern away simply because the explanation is pleasant. You should also observe what happens when words and behavior conflict in your own life. It is easy to study others and remain blind to yourself. If you say discipline matters but avoid difficult work, your actions are revealing something. If you say you value peace but constantly enter unnecessary conflict, your behavior is speaking louder than your intention. The purpose of observation is not superiority. It is accurate. When someone shows consistency between what they say and what they do, trust can grow. When the gap keeps widening, reduce the amount of your life that depends on their words. You do not need anger. You do not need a dramatic confrontation every time. Sometimes wisdom simply means adjusting your expectations to match reality. A strong observer does not become hypnotized by charm, confidence, or promises. He asked one quiet question. What has this person repeatedly demonstrated? That question will protect you from many illusions. Notice how people change when status enters the room. If you want to understand a person's character, watch what happens when they enter a room where power, money, popularity, or influence is present. Status changes the behavior of many people because it awakens desires they normally hide. Someone who seems calm and natural around ordinary people may suddenly become eager, flattering, competitive, or dismissive when they believe an important person is watching. Pay attention to these changes. A person may speak warmly to you until someone more useful arrives. Their attention shifts, their posture changes, and suddenly you are treated as though your value has decreased. Another person may criticize powerful people in private, but become excessively agreeable the moment those people enter the room. Someone else may become louder, more impressive, or more willing to embarrass others because they are trying to rise in the social order. These moments reveal what a person worships. Again, do not judge someone because they become nervous around authority. Nervousness is human. Respecting a leader is not a weakness. The important question is whether status changes their basic character. Do they abandon fairness? Do they forget people who help them? Do they begin measuring human worth according to usefulness? A skilled fighter understands position. He knows that people behave differently when they believe they have the advantage. The same is true outside combat. Give someone a little authority, and you may discover how they really think about those beneath them. Give someone access to an influential circle, and you may discover whether friendship was ever more important to them than opportunity. Watch how people behave after receiving recognition. Some become more generous because success gives them room to help others. Others become colder because success confirms the superiority they secretly believed they possessed. Praise does not create this character from nothing. Often it simply removes the need to hide it. Watch also what happens when someone is around people they consider beneath them, and then suddenly around someone they admire. The contrast can be revealing. A person with inner stability does not need to become smaller, louder, or more artificial simply because the social temperature changes. They may adjust manners appropriately, but they do not exchange their identity for approval. This matters because people who are constantly reshaping themselves around status may eventually reshape their loyalty as well. You are not looking for perfect social confidence. You are looking for a core that does not disappear when hierarchy enters the room. You can observe the opposite situation as well. Watch what happens when someone loses status. When the position disappears, the money is reduced, the applause stops, or the group no longer sees them as important. What remains? Some people become humble and real. Others become bitter because their identity depended on being above someone. This is valuable information. Do not become impressed too quickly by how a person treats those who can help them. That behavior may be a strategy. Watch how they treat the person whose approval has no value to them. Watch whether their respect remains when there is nothing to gain. And remember to study yourself. If your voice changes around important people, ask why. If you become dismissive towards someone because they cannot advance your goals, correct yourself. Observation should sharpen your own character as much as it protects you from the character of others. You do not need to fear ambitious people. Ambition can be honorable. The danger is ambition without character, because that person may treat every relationship like a ladder and every human being like a step. Learn to notice who becomes more respectful when they rise and who becomes more entitled. Status magnifies what is already inside. Study people in small moments of frustration. Many people can appear patient when everything is going their way. The more revealing moment comes when something small becomes inconvenient. Watch what happens when a waiter makes a mistake, when traffic slows down, when a plan changes unexpectedly, when a device stops working, or when someone misunderstands a simple instruction. These situations are not dramatic, but they are useful because they remove the social performance people maintain when they feel comfortable. Small frustration exposes emotional habits. A person who immediately becomes cruel over a minor inconvenience may carry a much larger problem with entitlement. Someone who humiliates another person for making a small mistake is showing you what happens when their comfort is disturbed. A person who can remain firm without becoming disrespectful is showing you a different kind of strength. Do not confuse calmness with passivity. Sometimes a mistake must be corrected. Sometimes poor service needs to be addressed. Sometimes someone must hear a clear boundary. The question is not whether a person responds. The question is how they use their power in that moment. Do they correct without degrading? Do they express frustration without trying to injure? Can they separate the problem from the person? These details matter. A fighter who loses control because an opponent irritates him becomes easier to defeat. Anger narrows perception. speeds up reckless decisions, and makes the body waste energy. The same principle applies in ordinary life. A person who becomes unstable whenever conditions fail to satisfy them is revealing how little control they have over themselves. Small frustrations also reveal whether a person can keep proportion. Mature judgment gives a small problem a small response, and a serious problem a serious response. Immature judgment often gives everything the same emotional size. A delayed meal becomes a personal insult, a minor misunderstanding becomes a betrayal, and one inconvenience becomes proof that the entire day is ruined. When you see this repeatedly, understand what it means. The person is not only reacting to events, they are allowing events to define their internal state. A balanced person can dislike what happened without surrendering the rest of the day to it. You should also notice recovery time. Anyone can become irritated. The stronger question is how long the irritation owns them. Does a 5-minute inconvenience ruin the next 4 hours? Does one mistake become a story they repeat all day? Do they need everyone around them to carry the same mood? Recovery reveals discipline. This lesson is especially important when you are deciding whether to trust someone with responsibility. A person may perform well when the plan is smooth, but real responsibility contains interruptions, errors, delays, and uncertainty. If small problems make them lose judgment, larger problems will not magically improve their character. Observe quietly before you depend heavily. At the same time, do not turn yourself into a secret examiner who creates problems just to test people. That is manipulation, not wisdom. Life will provide enough natural moments. You simply need to stop ignoring them, and once again, apply the lesson inward. The way you react to minor inconveniences is training for larger difficulties. If every small interruption receives your full emotional force, you are teaching your mind that discomfort is an emergency. Slow down and notice the first reaction before it becomes behavior. A person who can handle small frustration with dignity usually has a stronger foundation for larger pressure. Not always, but often enough that you should pay attention. Character is not only revealed in crisis, sometimes it whispers while waiting in line. Listen to the questions people keep asking. People reveal themselves not only through the answers they give, but through the questions they repeatedly ask. A question directs attention. It shows what someone is curious about, what information they value, and sometimes what they are trying to gain. If a person constantly asks about your income, your contacts, your private relationships, your weaknesses, or the details of your plans, do not only answer the question, observe the pattern behind the curiosity. Not every question has a hidden agenda. Good friends ask personal questions because they care. Intelligent people ask detailed questions because they want to understand. The lesson is not to become suspicious of curiosity. The lesson is to notice when someone's questions consistently move toward information that gives them leverage, access, or advantage. Listen to what they ask when another person is absent. Do they want to understand, or do they want material for gossip? Do they ask how someone is doing, or do they immediately ask what went wrong? Do they become especially interested when the subject contains conflict, embarrassment, money, or failure? The direction of curiosity can reveal the direction of character. You should also notice how people respond when you do not answer. A respectful person can accept, "I would rather keep that private." An intrusive person may keep pushing, joke about your reluctance, become offended, or try another route to obtain the same information. The reaction tells you whether the question was casual or whether access itself mattered to them. In martial arts, you study what the opponent keeps reaching for. Repeated movement reveals intention. A person who attacks the same opening again and again is showing you where his attention is fixed. Conversation works similarly. Repeated questions often show what someone is trying to locate. There is another side to this lesson. Notice the questions people ask about ideas. Some people constantly ask, "Who is to blame?" Others ask, "What can be learned?" Some ask, "How can I look better?" Others ask, "How can I become better?" These questions reveal mental habits. The person who always searches for someone to blame may struggle to take responsibility. The person who always asks what can be learned may possess a growth-oriented mind. The person who asks only how something appears may be more concerned with image than substance. Questions can reveal another quality, whether a person is interested in truth or merely in confirmation. Some people do not ask because they want to discover. They ask until they hear the answer they already prefer. If every question is designed to support an existing judgment, then curiosity has become a disguise for bias. Notice whether the person can receive an answer that challenges their assumption. Can they say, "I may have been wrong"? Can they become more accurate instead of more defensive? A person who uses questions to learn becomes wiser. A person who uses questions only to confirm himself becomes harder to reason with. Do not make absolute judgments from one conversation. Human beings are more complex than that. But repeated questions are windows into repeated attention, and repeated attention shapes behavior. You should also improve the questions you ask. Instead of using observation only to read others, use it to refine yourself. Ask questions that help people think, rather than expose themselves for your entertainment. Ask questions that create understanding, not unnecessary drama. A strong observer listens beneath the surface of conversation. Sometimes the most revealing sentence is the question. Watch how they treat people who cannot reward them. The clearest window into character is how a person treats someone who has nothing obvious to offer them. Watch how they speak to workers, strangers, elderly people, children, beginners, and anyone who holds less status in the situation. A person may be extremely polite toward someone important because politeness benefits them. The behavior becomes more revealing when there is no reward for kindness and no penalty for disrespect. This is where the character loses its audience. Someone who is charming with powerful people but rude to service workers is not simply having a bad day if the pattern repeats. They are showing you that their respect is conditional. They respect position more than personhood. That should matter to you. You can also watch how someone behaves toward a person who is struggling. Do they become impatient because weakness annoys them? Do they make jokes at the expense of someone who cannot defend themselves? Do they enjoy having an advantage? Strength is most clearly seen in how it behaves around weakness. A skilled martial artist does not prove himself by attacking someone who cannot fight back. Real ability creates restraint. The stronger you become, the less you need to use power merely to feel powerful. The same principle belongs in ordinary life. A person with healthy confidence does not need to reduce the dignity of someone beneath them. They can correct, lead, refuse, or disagree without turning another human being into an object. You can learn even more by observing how someone treats a beginner. Beginners are slow, uncertain, and easy to impress. A person with secure skill usually teaches without needing to be humiliated. An insecure person may use the beginner as an opportunity to display superiority. This difference is important because confidence that requires an inferior audience is not real confidence. When someone can make another person feel capable while still correcting them honestly, you are seeing strength with control. That combination deserves respect because it shows that power has not destroyed empathy. Notice generosity as well, but observe it carefully. Public generosity can become performance. Quiet generosity is often more revealing because no reputation is being purchased. The person who helps when no one is watching may be showing you something real about their values. This does not mean generous people are automatically trustworthy in every area. Human character has many dimensions. Someone can be kind and still unreliable. Someone can be generous and still dishonest. Observation should make you more precise, not simplistic. The point is to gather a fuller picture. How does this person behave when there is no advantage? What do they do when the other person cannot open a door for them? Can they show respect without expecting something back? These questions matter because one day you may be the person who cannot reward them. Your position may change. Your usefulness may decrease. You may need patience instead of offering opportunity. People who respect only usefulness often disappear when usefulness disappears. And again, look inward. If you reserve your best manners only for people you admire, you are training yourself to become socially strategic instead of genuinely respectful. Treat the person with no influence as carefully as you treat the person with influence. That is not a weakness. That is proof that your character belongs to you rather than to the room. Observe what people do with information. Information is one of the quietest forms of power in any relationship. A secret. A weakness, a private plan, or a personal mistake may seem harmless when shared with the right person. But the way someone handles information tells you a great deal about their discipline. Watch what people do with things that are not theirs to spread. If someone constantly brings you private details about other people, do not become too comfortable simply because you are currently the listener. Ask yourself why this information reached you. Was it necessary? Was permission given? Is the person sharing because the information helps solve something, or because possessing private knowledge makes them feel important? The way someone carries another person's privacy is often a preview of how they may carry yours. This does not mean every discussion about an absent person is gossip. Sometimes you need advice. Sometimes serious behavior must be discussed. Sometimes information must be shared for safety, responsibility, or accountability. The difference is purpose. Is the information being used to help, protect, solve, or understand? Or is it being used to entertain, impress, embarrass, and control? Learn to see the difference. A person with poor discipline often cannot hold information without converting it into social currency. They discover something private and immediately feel the urge to tell someone else. The information gives them attention for a few minutes, so they trade another person's trust for their own importance. That should tell you something. Also notice whether people distort information while passing it along. Some do not technically lie, but they change tone, remove context, emphasize the most dramatic detail, and create a story that serves their emotion. This can be more dangerous than a direct lie because every sentence may contain part of the truth while the overall picture becomes false. A strong observer learns not to trust second-hand stories too quickly. Ask what the speaker actually witnessed. Ask what may be missing. Ask whether emotion has altered the description. Do not become a judge based on fragments. Another revealing detail is whether someone can receive information without immediately acting on it. Some people hear a rumor and instantly send messages, form conclusions, or change how they treat the person involved. Others can hold the information long enough to verify it. That pause is a sign of maturity. The ability to delay judgment protects you from becoming a weapon in someone else's conflict. If you are easily excited by secret information, people can manipulate you simply by controlling what you hear. Learn to value accuracy more than the thrill of being included. A martial artist understands that bad information produces bad timing. If you misread distance, you move at the wrong moment. In life, if you build decisions on distorted information, you may damage relationships, reject good people, or trust the wrong ones. Protect yourself by slowing down. You should also notice what happens when someone becomes angry. Can they still protect confidential information, or does anger suddenly give them permission to reveal everything they know? A person who uses secrets as weapons during conflict has shown you that privacy was never truly safe with them. Do not ignore this simply because they apologize later. An apology may repair something, but the behavior still teaches you how carefully future access should be given, and hold yourself to the same standard. If someone trusts you, do not turn their vulnerability into a story. If you are angry, do not search through old conversations for ammunition. If you no longer like someone, that does not automatically cancel your responsibility to handle what they shared with dignity. Information tests character because much of the time no one can force you to behave well. That is why it reveals so much. Observe who a person becomes when they think there will be no consequence. The final lesson is one of the most important. Watch what people do when they believe nothing will happen to them. Consequences shape behavior. Many people appear disciplined because rules, reputation, authority, or social pressure are nearby. But when they believe there is no chance of being caught, corrected, rejected, or exposed, the deeper structure of character becomes easier to see. This does not require spying on anyone. Do not turn observation into obsession. You will see enough through ordinary life. Notice whether a person keeps agreements that nobody can verify. Notice whether they return something they could easily keep. Notice whether they admit a mistake when blaming someone else would be easier. Notice whether they behave differently online, in private groups, or around people they believe cannot affect their reputation. The important question is not whether they fear punishment, it is whether they possess an internal standard. A person whose morality exists only when someone is watching has not developed character, they have developed compliance. There is a difference. In martial arts, discipline cannot depend on the instructor standing beside you every second. Eventually you train alone. Nobody is counting the repetitions. Nobody knows whether you stopped early. At that moment, the quality of your training depends on what you demand from yourself. Life reveals people in the same way. Someone may be honest when dishonesty is risky. What happens when dishonesty becomes easy? Someone may be loyal when betrayal would damage their reputation. What happens when betrayal is invisible? Someone may be respectful when important people are watching. What happens when they believe the person in front of them has no power? These moments deserve your attention because consequences disappear and inner rules take over. The absence of consequences also reveals how a person treats commitments to themselves. Someone may tell others they value health, discipline, study, or responsibility, but what happens when there is no deadline, no supervisor, and no public reward? Private conduct is not everything, yet it shows whether values have become internal or remain dependent on external pressure. This is useful because a person who can govern himself without constant supervision is usually safer to trust with freedom. The one who needs surveillance for every promise may behave well only as long as the surveillance remains. Do not expect perfection. Everyone has private weaknesses, and one poor decision does not define an entire life. Look for patterns, severity, responsibility, and correction. When someone does something wrong and immediately tries to repair it without being forced, that also reveals character. The person who can admit wrongdoing before being exposed may be more trustworthy than the person who has simply never been tested. Observation must remain intelligent. You are not looking for flawless people. You are looking for alignment. Does the private person resemble the public person? Do values remain when convenience changes? Does conscience still speak when the audience disappears? And finally, ask these questions about yourself. Who are you when nobody will know? What standard survives when there is no reward for keeping it? If you want to become difficult to fool, begin by becoming difficult to deceive yourself. Because the person who refuses to see his own contradictions will always be vulnerable to contradictions in others. My friends, learning to observe people is not about becoming suspicious, cold, or afraid of everyone around you. It is about becoming calm enough to notice what emotion usually makes you ignore. Listen to words, but watch patterns. Notice how people handle status, frustration, information, responsibility, and moments when no reward is available. Then give trust according to evidence, not hope. You will still misunderstand people sometimes, because no method makes you perfect. But you will become slower to be impressed, harder to manipulate, and more careful with what you give. Observe without hatred, judge without arrogance. And remember, when you stop demanding that people be who you want them to be, you finally become free to see who they are.